Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Aurora Perrineau about It Takes Three, available on digital on demand September 3rd. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's so much content out there, so many amazing films and TV shows, but I have a soft spot and I love the slice of life, coming of age genre. What was it like working on a film like this?
It was my first time ever working on something like that, and It was so fun. I feel like I always work on really dark material, so it was fun to just like go to work and not have like a sad day. It was really fun.
Do you find that kind of interesting? You look back at your career, obviously you go where the opportunities go, but you haven't had a chance to work on a lot of different projects. That's pretty cool to think about as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've had the opportunity to work on a lot of different things. I tend to always play darker characters, but I think I'm realizing it's an energy that you put out when you're auditioning and stuff, and I think I tend to like those characters, which is why I get them.
How did it come to be being a storyteller and an actor for you? Did it start at a young age?
My parents were both actors, so it did start at a young age. When I was 6, I started acting, and then I quit when I found out that you don't get every job that you audition for. That was news to me, and my parents were like, yeah. And then I started again when I was like 17 or 18.
Absolutely. What can people expect plot-wise, without spoilers, about this film, and what can they expect with your character in this film as well, Aurora?
Well, the film is kind of a modern take on Cyrano de Bergerac, which in modern times would basically be catfishing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. There is a kind of a love triangle between my character Roxy and the jock, and no better term than this because it's nerd, but he's not a nerd. It's just the way that it's being put out there. And the jock really likes my character, and this other guy, Cy, ends up basically pretending to be the jock to get me to like him because I like everything about Cy. And yeah, it's just kind of a catfishing love triangle that doesn't go well for anybody.
Hey, these days it's cool to be a nerd. Look at like geek culture and comic book
That's
culture.
true.
Like I remember when I was younger growing up, like I'd get made fun of if I had like a Spider-Man shirt on. But now
Right.
I'll be Priz. I'll be the coolest kid at the
It's
table.
so true. It's so true.
Which is awesome. What do you like about the direction storytelling and content is going right now? I talked to you about this kind of genre of like the coming of age, a slice of life. What do you like about what's happening in storytelling these days, Aurora?
I'm really liking, because I'm a big movie person. I'm not a huge TV person, but I'm finding myself watching a lot of TV recently because I think the writing and the storytelling that's happening on TV is like the movies now, especially like limited series. I think limited series are like something that feels newer to me.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them that like you can get the movie version but longer, but it doesn't lose the quality. So I think limited series I'm very excited about.
Obviously, like genre-wise, the darker characters like Prodigal Son and True for Dare and stuff like that. This is obviously different too because this is also lighter. But is the preparation the same for roles in terms of going in, auditioning for a role, shooting the movie, shooting the show, or does it depend on the project in terms of preparation as well?
It depends on the project. So like, for Prodigal Son, for instance, I based the character off of a female detective that I know in real life.
Yeah.
And so I was really trying to understand how she acts, and that was a whole different preparation. And then I did a limited series called When They See Us, and I just read through like all the files about the real men and talked to them as much as I could to understand who this girlfriend was to the person I was playing. So yeah, it's just different preparation, but always kind of handled the same way.
Absolutely. For this one, It Takes Three. What was the specific? It's funny you say that. Did you like talk to people like, hey, like a friend of yours who had like a younger brother? He's a bit of a nerd. Like, what?
No, I think that the thing with this movie was I really just felt like I was playing myself. So it took less preparation than some of the other jobs I've had. I kind of, the director gave me the freedom to be myself, and when I read it, I was kind of like, oh, this is me. And I didn't think about like, oh, how do I make this me? Which a lot of times when I'm auditioning, I'm like, how do I make this character that's nothing like me me still so that it's natural, but this one is just like, oh, it's me. I get it. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You reference how incredible TV specifically and just storytelling has become when I asked you that question about what you like about storytelling. Do you get inspired to kind of go above and beyond in terms of not just acting and maybe going behind the camera as well and writing and directing, or is acting like the main thing you're focusing on right now?
Right now, I'm definitely just focusing on acting, but I'm always sitting there with a script that I never finish that I'm trying to write. So I have a script that I've been writing for I don't know how long, and I keep being like, yeah, one day. But no, I do want to write. I want to direct. I think I want to direct more than I want to write, though.
Absolutely.
Down the line, like Denzel Washington just had a movie that he directed come out, and I was like, I wouldn't mind like being that age and doing that. Like I like the focus on acting right now.
I find it interesting, and during COVID-19, like the pandemic, you saw a lot of this. What do you think about the fact that you go you go and work on all these projects and you shoot them and you wrap, and then there's kind of then this part of it, right? Like doing the marketing and doing the interviews, right? But then there's kind of that like sometimes you don't know when certain projects are coming out. Like you could be like doing a project and then did another project, and that project you did before still didn't come out yet. Like that's a unique situation as well for a lot of storytellers, right?
Yeah, I mean, this movie, for instance, we shot like 3 or 4 years ago.
That's why.
And so I just at a certain point was like, I guess it's not coming out. And then I got an email from the director and he's like, it's coming out this month. And I was like, oh, okay. Great. I guess I'm happy it's coming out. But yeah, you just never know because it's such a gamble when you do an indie film. Like you don't have a for sure like sell to anywhere.
It's amazing that you just said that. You said indie because that was like my next question. So this is like an indie film technically. I always found the term like indie so misleading because some of like the best and biggest movies these days are indie films. Yeah. Some of the best bands are like indie rock bands like Arctic Monkeys and Vampire Weekend. These bands are playing stadiums. Right. It's so weird. Do you agree with me a little bit?
No, I do. I did an indie film years ago called Equals, and it was like Ridley Scott's company. Yeah. And we had a ton of money and we were shooting in Japan, and I was like, this doesn't feel like an indie film I've ever been on before. I was like, I'm in Japan for 2 months. When have I ever done that for an indie? But it is considered that, I guess.
That was the best line. We had a ton of money. We were in Japan for an indie film. I think that was the line of the whole interview so far. It's so amazing. This film has obviously glimpsed, like it feels really, it's very like humanistic and very real. The characters are very real. Do you also find that's where content's going direction wise too, where these films are not as over the top as they used to be? These are about real people dealing with real situations that anyone can get out of get out of watching this film and relate and be like, that could like happen tomorrow with someone I know.
Yeah, I do. There's still like obviously the big, huge superhero films and all of those, but I do think like when you look at what these other movies are, for the most part, it is kind of more real people, even if the story is a little like, I don't know if you've seen this film Pig with Nicolas Cage.
Yes, I have.
Okay, it's my favorite of the year. I can't stop talking about it. But, those are all like very just real people. Now the story maybe is a little bit insane, but you don't ever like not believe that it's happening because they are going in this route of like everything is so grounded, and you can get away with a lot more, I feel like, when you do that.
Nicolas Cage has been knocking it out of the park lately. Did you see Willy's Wonderland?
No, I watched Mandy the other night though.
Willy's Wonderland, put that on your list. It's fantastic. Really? It's a great one. And if you ever went to like a Chuck E. Cheese growing up when you were a kid one time, you're just gonna get like thrown right back into that nostalgia. It's really awesome. Takeaway wise, when they watch this film, what are you hoping they get out of it specifically?
I think with this whole social media thing and how much it kind of eats a lot of people alive. I mean, I'm one of them. Like, you get trapped in this like horrible thought process of things. That people kind of take a step back and really just cherish what they have inside themselves. And it's like so corny, but it's just true. Like, I just want people to love themselves for who they are, and not in this whole thing of like having to look a certain way or act a certain way or be like the norm is not. It's not cool. Being yourself is cool.
Yeah. It's very interesting too. I find the position that a lot of storytellers like yourself are in right now, because, you know, people can watch Prodigal Son or a lot of projects you've done and see Aurora Perrineau and be like, I one day want to be in Aurora's shoes. I want to kind of be an actor and work on shows like this. I want to do that. I look up to her. At the same time, you're also everyday learning, grinding, figuring out as well. You're also looking up to people as well in the industry as well. So you're like in the middle. Have you ever thought about that? Because that's an interesting situation that Aurora Perrineau is in.
I definitely think about like the people that I look up to
Yeah.
a lot. Every once in a while, like I'll get a tweet where someone says something along those lines, and I'm like, oh, that's so interesting to me, because I feel like I'm like a baby and I'm like at ground zero of this whole thing.
Yeah, but it's interesting too, right? Because people like, you know, people love Prodigal Son. People will see you on that show and be like, I want to one day be working in that, right?
Right.
So I feel like that's a really interesting situation for a lot of people as well.
Yeah.
Because people are kind of like, oh, like you want to be like me growing up? Like I want to be like people. You know what I mean? Like it's the same with the podcast world too. It is weird to think about though.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I haven't really thought about that.
Absolutely. I wanted to thank you so much for taking some time to chat about It Takes Three. It really means a lot. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. This was so nice.
So September 3rd on demand and digital, they're going to be able to see it. I'm really excited for everyone to see it. Where can people follow you on social media to keep update with everything?
Twitter and Instagram. That's the only thing I got.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative. For previous episodes, you can be able to catch Aurora Perrineau and It Takes Three. Available on demand and on digital September 3rd. Until next time, this is Aurora and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.